Hi book lovers, my name is Christina and welcome back to Cozy Novel Niche. Today I'm here with the first part of the new releases of 2023 that are really making me excited. This doesn't mean that I will be able to read them necessarily, buy them, listen to them. These are just the books that really got my attention while I was scrolling through all of the new releases. I decided to get to the books that will be released from January till May 2023, so that we will have a second half of the year covered in the second part of the year. Yeah, that makes sense. And so without further ado, let me get to the two books that already have been released in January. The first one is fairy fantasy, a cozy fantasy, I guess. At least these are the vibes that the book is giving me. It's a first in a serious duology trilogy. I don't know yet. And it is called, I will read the title because it's long, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, written by Heather Fawcett. This is the beautiful cover for this book, and it deals with fairies and fairy folk, so of course I'm excited about it. And we're following our main protagonist, Emily, who is a professor. She researches apparently fair folk, and she ends up traveling to a place where she and her rival kinda in her profession moves also, and they're making research, they're trying to discover something, and this just, I don't know, this just sounds right up my alley. I guess that it will end up being a romance with a fantasy setting, I think. So I don't have to know much more than that. I mean, fantasy, cozy, fairy folk. So if you're interested, just stay tuned because this one has already been released. And the second book that made me excited that was released this January, again, is a fantasy, and again it has a very long title, so I will read it. It's Song of Silver, Flame-like Night. This has a Chinese setting from what I get. I'm not sure if it will be a YA or more of an adult-like story, but we are following our main protagonist who lives in a country that has been conquered, and so all of the traditions and all of the cultural heritage of the country has kind of been just erased or suppressed by the new power, and her family has been killed. The only thing that she has is a mark on her skin that her mother left her just before dying, and so she's desperately trying to understand what it means. And she ends up meeting a boy, I guess, who has saved her life, who uses some magical powers that are strictly forbidden in this country right now because it has its origins in the previous country's heritage, and so it is very frowned upon, it's condemned, I guess. So we're following them as they're making their way through this new political setting, and it sounds like a great adventure, maybe with a bit of Chinese mythology. So apparently what not to love. So I'm definitely waiting for this one, and I hope to be able to read it this year. Let's move to February, and here I have Venko, I guess it's pronounced Venko. And this is apparently a standalone, and we're following our main protagonist who kind of discovers that she's related to or called by witches and Salem and stuff like that. She finds a spoon in a wall apparently, and if all the spoons are collected, some magical power will kind of be reborn, or witches will be able to regain their true power, and she will go to New Orleans with a friend trying to escape at the same time, a witch hunter, while she tries to gain back her power and the witch's power, I think. So it seems like a fantasy and a bit of paranormal, and I don't really need to know more than that. I mean, if it's witchy, I will probably read it, and so I always in search of a great witchy book. Not all of them are, but some are, so finger crossed that will be one of those. Next book that's released in February that I'm very excited about is again a fantasy. This one seems to be a standalone. It has a long title, so it's The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi, and it has this beautiful cover. And apparently in this one we're following two characters, and our main protagonist marries this beautiful woman, but she gives him kind of a condition that he cannot try and know more about her or explore the mansion where they're living, but he does it. So he starts discovering very strange things about her past and about their marriage too. I don't know, it sounds like a fantasy but with a bit of mystery, maybe a slash of horror. I'm not very sure. It's giving me like Crimson Peaks vibes right now for whatever reason, but I don't know if I will be completely wrong. The thing that Goodreads tells us about this is that combining the lush, haunting atmosphere of Mexican Gothic with the dreamy enchantment of the invisible life of Eddie LaRue, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride is a spellbinding and darkly romantic page-turner about love and lies, secrets and betrayal, and the stories we tell ourselves to survive. So the premise seems very interesting, and I'm purposely not trying to read too much about the description because I think that I would love to get into this knowing as little as possible. The next one, again released in February, is a middle grade contemporary book. It's called It's Boba Time for Pearl Lee. First of all, this cover, it's so colorful, it makes me happy already. Second, it has boba in it, and I love boba tea so much. I've loved it for years. It's my favorite summer kind of drink, and I just love it. And I love the idea of having it as a main concept in the book. And since it's a middle grade, I don't want to spoil too much, and I will just read the two first sentences from Goodreads because I think that they summarize all. We follow a big-hearted Taiwanese American girl as she aims to gain her family's acceptance and save her favorite boba tea shop by selling her handcrafted amigurumi dolls. I mean, it's middle grade, it's contemporary, it would end up being lovely. I guess that we will delve a little bit into the importance of your heritage and acceptance and just all of the challenges that a young adult, a young middle grader can face. I hope that it will be funny and lovely, just like boba. So finger crossed, I will love it. Moving to March, we have a standalone by an author whose first book I've not read yet. I have it in my Storytel library, I think, and it's The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. This is a historically set book. This one is set in 1837. And we have a very particular concept here again. She's great with concepts dealing with women and vengeance, I think, from what I remember. She's the author of Lost Apothecary, I guess it was the title. And here we're following a sort of a seance conducting seance lady. She sees spirits, she evokes spirits, and so she's very famous worldwide because she apparently can call spirits and conjure spirits of dead people so that they can recognize and confirm the identity of their killer. Yeah. And apparently she ends up teaming up with this other woman who is searching the truth about something that happened in her life, and they end up mixed with this seance society that exists, and it seems to be like maybe a murder mystery thing with a bit of witchy kind of seance vibes. Who knows? But the premises are great, so I hope that I will love it. I don't know how historically accurate it will be or if it's just for the setting, but I hope that we will really feel those 1830s vibes. Next is a standalone with a very, very unique concept, and I will just read to you the very two first sentences on Goodreads because I don't want to know more than that. That's what got me. This book is Bitter Medicine by Mia Tsai, and the concept of it. Listen to it because here this is a contemporary fantasy as a setting, like paranormal fantasy thing, I guess. A Chinese immortal and a French elf navigate romance, family loyalty, and workplace demands. In this debut novel, the author has created a paranormal adventure that is full of humor, passion, and death. Like, a Chinese immortal and a French elf? I love it. I already love it. It's so unique. Fingers crossed it will be unique in the concept too, and that I will end up enjoying it. But I mean, the promise is just amazing in my opinion. Do you love it? Because I love it. The last book that I'm anticipating that will be released in March again has a very long title, and it's Once Upon a Time: The Misadventures of a Rare Bookseller by Oliver Darkshire. I think that this one is a non-fiction. I think so. And here I'm a little bit confused because I guess that maybe one edition of this book already has been released previously, and now we have the paperback or the hardcover re-released with a different cover. I'm not sure about it, but this is a book about books, about book lovers, about antique bookshops and the art of searching for antique books, the art of delving into a topic to the point of obsession. And as Goodreads states at the very end of the description of the book, that this is a rather colorful story of life in one of the world's oldest bookshops and a love letter to the benign and unruly world of antiquarian book selling, where to be uncommon or strange is the best possible compliment. And I mean, we're readers, and I think that we all love books about books. And I've read a couple of books written by book owners previously. Not all of them were hits, so maybe this one will be. Who knows? Often it's more the idea of something described that I love more than the execution that I end up reading, so I hope that that's not this case, but that it will end up being a great reading experience too. We're moving our way to April, and here we have a T.J. Klune new book release. This one is In the Lives of Puppets, and I know very little about it. I guess that in this one we have the topic of humans and robots living together and how emotions can be developed one way or the other, and again the theme of found family. I don't want to know a lot about this book because I read this past year I read The House in the Cerulean Sea, and that was an amazing experience. I hope to read this year maybe Under the Whispering Door or The Whisper Under the Door. I don't remember the title. His the second novel, and now this is a third one released by it, and by third I don't mean that these books are interconnected. They are completely separate from one another, but the author has a way of writing and making you feel about the things that he describes and people that he describes that I'm sure it will be a hit again. So I will see. The only thing that I know is that we're following our main human protagonist who will face a journey to save his robotic friend, part of his robotic family, something like that. And so I already can feel that my heart will suffer a little bit, but that it will also feel all of the good emotions too. So I hope that I will love it. The other book that's released in April is very different from the previous ones. It has nothing to do with fantasy, and it's The Half Moon by Mary Beth Keane, I guess it's pronounced. And this is a contemporary story in which we're following a man who finally is able to buy the pub, the bar of his dreams, and he wants to kind of change things, but he realizes that the people who are the usual clients of the place don't really want to face change. And at the same time, his wife, who tried for a long time to have a child, kind of need to face the fact that probably it is not in the cards for her, and these things all together kind of mix and match, and we are following these two people and this family throughout a week. So the book covers a week span, and this is the part that I really find fascinating and interesting. Goodreads says that this book shows off the author's skilled storytelling and generous spirit as she carefully explores a marriage in crisis, what it takes to make a life with another person, and the true meaning of family. So potentially it will be heartbreaking and hard, but it's about human real feelings. So I don't know, maybe it's the cover, maybe it's the title, maybe it's the concept of a week, but it really piqued my interest, so I hope that I will enjoy it. And we just reached May, and so here we have The Collected Regrets of Clover by Miki Brammer. This is again a contemporary novel about a woman who is a death doula, which means she kind of accompanies people to death. She deals with all of the aspects of life that are connected to death, to the point that she devotes herself to her profession so much that she ends up forgetting living. And so apparently after the death of an elderly woman due to her will, she ends up on an adventure in discovering her long lost love, her wishes and desires. And so I think that it will be a lovely book about the meaning of life, seen from a very unique point of view of someone who's so close to death, which is kind of a taboo topic in our society. So I think that it has great premises, and I hope that it has been well written so that I will enjoy it. One more book with a very fascinating setting and topic, in my opinion, will be Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I've not read The Poppy Wars by this author, nor Babel yet. In the future I definitely plan to, but this has nothing to do with fantasy. This is a contemporary book about a very relevant topic nowadays, and we're following our main protagonist. It's told in first person, I guess, who is a white woman who is trying to make her name in the publishing industry, but at the same time she sees someone with whom she went to college and university to, an Asian woman, being very successful at her career. And so when she witnesses the tragic death of that woman, she on impulse ending up stealing the manuscript that this woman was getting ready to be published, and she ends up editing it. She ends up getting a fake pen name, pretending to be Asian American, and she pretty much steals the work of someone else, trying to sell it as her own. And the book is about how things start to go wrong and how far she is willing to go to protect this fake identity that she created for herself, and what she will be able to do and what she's willing to do to go on with this just play and this fake identity. Goodreads also says that this book takes on questions of diversity, racism, and cultural appropriation, not only in the publishing industry, but the persistent erasure of Asian American voices and history by Western white society. So I think it will be a very, very relevant and important read. Next one is a book with an amazing cover. It is by S.L. Huang and it's The Water Outlaws. In this book, I guess that it's a myth or a real life retelling. I'm not sure about it actually, but we're following our main protagonist who ends up being marked as a traitor. She escapes her life and she ends up becoming a part of the mountain bandits, who are, I don't know if they're all female bandits or like they are pro female power and empowerment, but this seems as a great kind of gruesome story. And it says at the very end of the description on Goodreads, apart they love like demons and fight like tigers. Together they could bring down an empire. I mean, what else do you need to know? What else? It has an amazing cover. The concept seems lovely and unique, so I'm in for it. Next is a standalone contemporary fiction and it's The Late Americans. This book is kind of, for me, there is, in my mind, there is a specific category for those books. They are like about people's lives. And in this case particularly, we're following a group of friends and how we pretty much end up seeing their lives, what happens, how and where they want to go and where they end up being, and the contrast between the two. Apparently here we're following three friends who live in Iowa City and the ups and downs of their life. And just to give you the idea of the vibe, I will read to you the last part that Goodreads uses in the description. It says that it's a novel of intimacy and precarity, friendship and chosen family. So intimacy, friendship, the theme of found family. Usually these kind of books are not very happy-go-lucky, but I still love reading them because it seems like you really end up meeting a new person in your life, and those kind of characters are usually very well built, so that's the reason why I love reading those books. I'm not sure if it will be true, but that's the reason why I put it on my cannot wait to read in 2023 list. Then we have Witch King by Martha Wells, who is a well-loved and well-known author for her sci-fi creations, and here it's a fantasy. And I tried reading the description, but I actually cannot summarize to you the content of this book yet. Apparently we're following a character whose name is Sky, and he or she, he probably, he ends up reawakening after a lot of time in a lesser form of himself. So I don't know if he's the Witch King or if he's a demon or whatsoever, but I don't know, it's a fantasy. It has a title that really captivates me. It's by an author that I know is very good at writing, so I have very high hopes. And why not? But then on the other side, I don't know that much about the plot of this book, so we will see. And then the last one is a fantasy queer romance, I think. It's called Mortal Follies. This one will actually be released, I guess, in June and not in May. And this book is written by Alexis Hall. In this one, the book is set in 1814 or 13, and we're following our main protagonist, who apparently has been cursed, and a lot of horrible things, horrible as in a Regency society, so improper things start to happen to her, so that she ends up trying to search help in a very well-known but unfamous, let's say, figure in society, who is that woman who's called the Duke, sardonically apparently. and she's rumored to be an evil enchantress, but that's the only person to whom our main protagonist ends up being able to ask help to. So I don't know, this already sounds quite funny, being set in the Regency era, in that proper kind of time. I think that it will be funny and kinda, I don't know where the book will end. It has so much potential, and I don't know, it just makes me smile thinking about this book, even if I don't know concretely that much about it. So I hope that I will love it. It has a very colorful cover, as you may see, so finger crossed it will be fun as I'm expecting. So this video has been absolutely long, I'm so sorry, but I hope that you find one or two titles that you wasn't maybe aware of, or that picked up your interest. Let me know down below if you're planning to read any of those, if you've known about them, if there are some titles that you will add to your TBR or your wish list. And this is it for this video. I will see you very, very soon in my next one, and meanwhile, curl up with a great book and bye! Ciao!